Endurance Junkie podcast, episode 27. Hey Junkie, welcome to episode 27 of the Endurance Junkie podcast, the show where I will be interviewing some of the fastest, smartest, and most inspiring people active in the endurance world today. James Cunnama is a professional Ironman athlete out of South Africa. He finished 4th at the 2013 Ironman World Championships and was one of the dark horses to take the title this year. Unfortunately, a crash 5 weeks before the race stopped him from racing at his full potential. At 31 years of age and with an Ironman PB of 7 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds, James is definitely a force to be reckoned with in the future. James, thanks for taking the time to chat here today. Can you maybe start off by telling us a bit about yourself, your sporting background growing up as a kid in South Africa, and how you ended up in triathlon?
I grew up in Port Elisabeth on the east coast of South Africa, where they host the Comrades Marathon, the Junkie Canoe Marathon, a few other famous endurance sports events, and that was pretty much what got me into the sport. Into sports in general. My parents were both runners. They both did the Comrades Marathon multiple times. And I started running from a very young age. And you know, the longer the better. I just loved it. I ran with my mom while she was training for Comrades. And I spent most of my youth running. And then when I got to university, I was in Port Elisabeth and I was still running. And the Ironman came to Port Elisabeth. I volunteered and worked on the side of the road and helped the guys close the roads and watched all these crazy triathletes doing their thing. And one thing led to another. Someone lent me a bike and asked to try the triathlon. And a couple of years later, I did my first Ironman in 2007 in Ironman South Africa.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the start of my career.
Yeah. So running as a kid, did you do a lot of competitions, or were you just out running with your parents?
I did some competitions. I did, schools cross country, and I did half marathons and everything below that. 10K road races and all the local races. I wasn't incredibly competitive. I wasn't, on the national scene or anything like that. I enjoyed it, and I won the junior division at some half marathons and stuff like that when I was under 19. But it certainly wasn't the seriousness and the level of some of my peers at that stage in life. It was more of a hobby for me always.
Yeah. You mentioned Comrades before, and you guys obviously have a 70.3 race and an Ironman, and you've got Two Oceans Marathon, Cape Argus Cycle Tour, Cape Epic Mountain Bike Challenge. What is it about South Africans and endurance events? You guys are really hooked on it.
Yeah, I guess that's been a factor in my life, my whole life. I don't really know why it is. I guess the weather lends itself to outdoor activities year round. Comrades is in the middle of winter, and you can run year round. You can be outdoors year round, and so just one thing leads to another. There is definitely a culture of endurance sports. Even when I was growing up in the late 80s, the Comrades Marathon was on TV, and it was a massive thing. It was on TV all day for all 10, 11 hours of the race. You could sit and watch TV, and people did. They'd sit and watch runners running and crossing the finish line for hours and hours on end, which you don't see anywhere else in any other event or in any other country. I guess I don't really know. I can't answer that question, but I'm definitely a product of that.
Yeah, is Comrades still like the biggest thing in South Africa?
It's still 18,000 athletes every year racing the race. It's a really big event, and many people do it. I think it's still a bit of a case. If you're a runner, people ask you how many Comrades you've done. That's all that counts if you're a runner. But there is definitely a shift towards other endurance sports in the last few years. The Cape Epic mountain biking's taken off in a big way in South Africa. We've just got endless outdoor mountain bike trails. So that's taken off in a big way. And, Ironman and triathlon is also a very big growth sport in this country. People love it, and it's getting bigger and bigger everywhere.
Yeah, sounds like multi-sport heaven then. So yeah, you made the switch to triathlon after being a volunteer at the Ironman. Were you pretty competitive there from the start, or were you starting off with sprint distance races, or did you go straight to the longer stuff?
I went very quickly through the distances. I did like one sprint distance, one Olympic distance duathlon, one half Ironman, and then one Ironman. That was pretty much the start of my career. I was competitive straight away in the duathlon. I couldn't really swim. I needed a lot of work on my swimming right from the beginning. But in my first duathlon was the provincial champs for the duathlon, and I won that. So I took to it pretty quickly. And like I say, it was about 18 months from my first triathlon, maybe 2 years from my first triathlon to my first Ironman, which I actually raced as a pro and came, I think, 21st overall, 12th in the male pros or something like that. I did, I think, 9 hours 40 for my first Ironman. So I was pretty competitive from the start. But I took it pretty seriously from the start too. If I was going to do it, I wanted to do it properly.
And were you coached at the time?
I wasn't, no. I had some help from the Ironman South Africa director, Paul Wolf, and I trained with their group, and they were all training for various Ironmans and half Ironmans. So I learned a lot from them, and I also had a sports science degree. I was studying sports science at the time, so I just stuck my head into the books and learned as much as I could about endurance sports and about biking and running. But I didn't have a coach for the first few years. My first coach was Brett Sutton.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, because you were part of Team TBB for quite a while, together with your partner Jody Swallow. You guys both left that team at the end of last year, and Jody started working with Cyril Lindley, and you hooked up with Macca. But I think it's fair to say that Brett Sutton definitely played a major role in both yours and Jody's success in long course racing. Can you maybe tell us a bit about that period in your career and how you hooked up with Brett in the first place?
I got together with Brett. It was a series of coincidences and serendipitous situations where I was introduced to him through friends of friends and friends who I was coaching, and they were looking at bringing a bike shop, the bike boutique, a TBB bike shop, to South Africa, and they wanted a pro, and I was in the right position in my career and in the right stage, and it all just came together perfectly. And basically what it came down to was they put me in contact with Brett, and Brett said, if you're interested in trying out, come to the Philippines right now. I'm here now. And I obviously had a job at the time, and I didn't have enough money to even buy the plane ticket. So it was a big leap for me. But I was lent the money for the plane ticket. I took some leave, and I left my job. And I went in for 3 weeks to the Philippines and tried out with Brett Sutton at the end of 2008. And they offered me a position on the team from the start of 2009. And that was it. That was how I got connected with Brett, and that was how I got into Team 2.
So that was basically your switch from from an amateur triathlete to a pro athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I raced the Ironman South Africa in 2008 as a pro. I wasn't professional. I was working. I was fitting my training around work. I wasn't making any money from triathlon. I didn't have any sponsors. I wasn't full time basically, and that was my switch. Once Team TBB gave me a position, it gave me the opportunity to go full time and focus 100% on triathlon, and that made all the difference.
What was it like training with him? Because there's some wild rumors going around about him.
I would say probably 50% of the wild rumors are 100% true. It was a big learning curve for me. Obviously, I'd not had a coach and I'd not been in triathlon for very long. So I jumped straight in the deep end, and it was a big learning curve, and I learned a lot very quickly. But it also gave him the opportunity to shape me without any outside influence. I didn't have any false beliefs that I shouldn't have been believing, and things that I trusted that I shouldn't have trusted. And so it gave him a clean slate to work with. And he was brilliant at that. He's molded me, he's structured me, and shaped me into the athlete that I am today. The success that I had was almost entirely in those first few years due to his work and his ideas.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm guessing that maybe the highlight of your time with Soto was your win in Challenge Roth and going 7 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds. Is that the highlight of your time with him?
Yeah, I would say it probably is. That was a very special day for me, a very big win in my career, and it was the belief that I had made it, that I was there, that I was at the top level and could go for things like going for the Kona win and that kind of thing. That race really was the watershed moment in my career.
Was it a goal to go sub-8 at that race, or was that just an extra added bonus that you had?
No, that was definitely an added bonus. It's very hard to ever say that your goal is sub-8. That at that race, sometimes it's taken us 7:42 to win that race, and sometimes it's taken us over 8 hours to win that race. It just depends on the conditions. That year was a particularly slow year. I think, on a different day, I would have had a much faster time, and a sub-8 was almost, if you want to win that race, you have to be ready to race a sub-8. The sub-8 was not a goal. Winning the race was a goal. And I actually had no idea that I was that close to 8 hours. I wasn't racing with a watch, and no one had told me, or if they had told me, they told me in German, and I didn't understand. So I was celebrating my win coming through the stadium at the end, and had no idea that I was that close to the 8 hour mark. And only with a few seconds to go did I actually see the clock and hustle my way over the line to make it by 1 second. So it was all just coincidence, and a very lucky and a very happy moment.
Yeah, just 1 second, huh?
Yeah.
I got a question coming through from Twitter from Vesa Hurskainen, and I hope I pronounce his name correctly. He's a fast Finn living in Sweden. You left Team TVB and then you hooked up with Macca, and he wants to know what Macca has brought to the table that helped you improve even further. Leaving Brett Sutton was always a big step, and like I say, he had taught me a lot, and I had a bit of a tough time looking for coaches. There weren't many coaches who I had faith in or believed in, and who worked in a similar way to Brett. I didn't want to change everything, because obviously what I'd worked with Brett was very successful. So I didn't want to go to a coach that then suddenly required me to have a power meter and wanted my power numbers all the time, wanted my heart rate numbers all the time, and those kind of things. So I didn't want to change anything too drastic. And I spent a good 6 months just looking after myself and figuring out what was important to me, and what I'd taken from Brett, and what I wanted to stick with and what I wanted to change. And then once I decided that, then I looked around for people to help me, and there were a number of options. And Macca really stood out as one of the best options. And when I got hold of him and asked him about it, he was extremely enthusiastic and very, very willing to help me, and very willing to help me make that leap from 4th place in Kona to 1st place in Kona, which is obviously the goal. And he brings a lot of experience. He won Kona the hard way. He spent 7 times failing in a row before he won Kona, before he figured it out. So it took him a lot to figure it out, and that kind of experience, that kind of expertise, I think, is what I need. If my whole goal is going to be to win Kona, then I need someone who knows what it takes to win Kona. I think I've got the basics of my training and my what I believe in and what I do on a day-to-day basis. Those are set. I know what works for me, and it's the matter of getting everything ready for that one day in October every year. That I need some guidance with, and that's what Macca brings to the table. Yeah, cool. Talking about Kona, you finished 4th last year, and of course many people were bringing your name up as one of the dark horses to win this year. Did you feel any added pressure going into the race, and how did you deal with it?
I didn't feel too much added pressure. I think the biggest, as always, the biggest expectation comes from yourself. My own goals were way more important than what anyone else believed I could do or should do or would do. So I didn't feel too much added pressure, external pressure. There was more pressure on myself. That's the nature of the racing. Once you've got fourth place in Kona is not going to make you happy again. You want to do better. And that doesn't leave much room for error. It doesn't leave much room for wiggle room. I would have been content maybe with the top 5 in Kona again. But at the end of the day, I'm racing for the win, and in order to improve on fourth place, I have to go for that win. So yeah, I didn't feel too much pressure going into the race, but I did feel some expectation from myself that I needed to do better than fourth place in order to be improving.
And you felt you were in similar or better shape than 2013?
Yeah, I was in really good shape. Obviously, my run up to the race didn't exactly go perfectly. Crashing at the Mont Tremblant 70.3 Worlds put me on the back foot a little bit. I didn't have any serious repercussions, no serious injuries from that. But I had quite bad road rash and quite a bad knock on my hip, which meant I couldn't swim for a good week after that race, and that was 5 weeks before Kona, which is exactly where you don't want to be missing training. So I had a that wasn't ideal, but I was still feeling really confident going into the race. I was in very good shape, and I was hitting really good numbers on the bike and on the run, and I was looking forward to a good race.
So yeah, what happened on race day? Because unfortunately you had a DNF. Can you maybe take us through your day?
Yeah, getting out of the water on the swim I was not where I wanted to be. It was quite a choppy swim, quite a rough start, and basically with that kind of chop, you are following the feet in front of you. You don't have much time or much ability to look around and see where the gap's happening, who's moving, who's braking, who's pushing away. So I pretty much was where I was. It was just kind of a case of swim hard and see where you end up. And I ended up not on the feet of the guys in the lead group, but rather on the feet of the guys in the second group. And once I realized that, and once I was in that situation, there wasn't much I could do about it. And that was halfway through the swim, and the lead group was already a good 100 or 200 meters up ahead of us, and there was no ways I could catch that gap. So all I could do really was just stay where I was and save some energy, which I did. Getting out the water 3 minutes down on that lead group, especially with that lead group being as big as it was, I was always up against it. It was very difficult to come from there and get into the mix. And I pretty much decided early on the bike that I had to go for it. I had to back my bike legs and try and close that gap to that lead group because the winner was going to come from that lead group. There was almost no doubt about it. So that's what I did. I stayed with Luke McKenzie and Marino van Hoornacker and Sebastian Kienle for the first 20 or 30 Ks, and then the pace started picking up, and Kienle decided he was going to go up to get the lead group. I tried to go with him, but I just couldn't. Luke McKenzie and Marino did the same, and basically everyone blew apart. Everyone was riding pretty much on their own. The winds were up, and you couldn't really get much advantage riding 12 meters behind anyone anyway. So it was every man for himself. I caught up to that lead group at the turn to Harvey, about 60 k's into the bike ride, and I was on the back of the lead group, but it was a big group still. It was a group of maybe 30 guys, 20 to 30 guys, and the guys at the back were starting to suffer, and I was at the back of them. So every time one of them suffered and dropped off the back of the group, I had to go around him and try and get back onto the group. But I was starting to suffer myself, and that was pretty much it. That was where my day ended. It was very early on in the race, and it feels terrible to have only got a third of the way through the race when the wheels fall off. But that was just the nature of the day. I didn't have the legs to go with Kienle to get to the front of that group. And once I caught up to that group, everyone pushed the pace because Kienle had got there. and that group blew to pieces, and I had already burnt all my matches. I had nothing left to respond or to move or to anything. So then it was a case of trying to consolidate and get home and try and get to the run with something left in the tank. But that just didn't happen. With the winds up like that, where I was and how I was feeling, there was nothing left in the tank. By the time I got to the start of the run, I knew that I was in a bad way. I tried to eat and drink and got through the first 5 miles. I kept moving through the first 5 miles, but I just couldn't get any energy back, and couldn't get any rhythm on my run. And I was already down in 25th, 26th place. I wasn't racing for money, and I wasn't really racing for any points at that point. So I decided to pull the plug and support Dirty for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Do you know what the reason is behind that bad day? Was it due to the crash at Mont Tremblant, or was it just race conditions that were just tough on everybody?
I think it's probably a combination of a whole lot of things. The perfect race has to have a whole lot of things go right in your favor, and for something to go wrong, a whole lot of little things go wrong, and it turns into a really, really bad day. Missing the swim, missing the front pack on the swim, maybe losing a bit of swimming after Mont Tremblant, and maybe that's what caused it. Maybe it was just the rough sea. Maybe it was I just wasn't swimming well that day. I don't really know, but that was one of the factors. And then going too hard at the start of the bike, trying to make up for that bad swim. I wasn't in a shape to ride that hard that early, and it's just one of those things. You can find 1,000 things that you did wrong, and that you did wrong in the lead up, and that you shouldn't have changed and you did change, or that you should have changed and you didn't change. And there's 1,000 things, and at the end of the day, it might have been one or two tiny things. It might have been just starting on the other side of the pack at race start. Might have changed my whole race. It might have got me in that lead pack, and I might have had a completely different outcome. It might have been something as simple as that. So, I on one hand, you want to have a good hard look and see what went wrong and fix everything. And on the other hand, you have to understand that it just happens. You have bad days, and sometimes things just don't go your way. It might, I don't want to change everything. I don't want to go into next year's race I don't want to change all my preparation and everything I did in preparation. But at the same time, I don't want to go in and make the same mistakes I did this year. So that's going forward, that's what we're going to look at, and that's what we're going to do. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be much the same plan next year, with a few minor tweaks.
Yeah, I guess having Micah as a coach there will definitely help. As you said it yourself, it took him 6 or 7 attempts before he got it right, and you're only 31, which is still pretty young in terms of Ironman. So plenty of time for you to get it right and to take that win. I had another question coming in from Twitter, and this one comes from Peter Helin, who's a Polar sales rep here in Belgium. And Peter came 4th at the Al-Brahman in 2013, the year where you finished 3rd. And he wants to know how you were able to combine that very, very tough Al-Brahman mid-August with Kona, where you obviously did well and grabbed 4th.
The short answer to that is Brett Sutton's training. That was kind of Brett Sutton's way. He raced us a lot. We raced often. We raced many races. I mean, in 2010, I think I did 12 races, 7 half distance and 5 full distance. And I won the last 4 of them. So that was just, that was the Brett Sutton way. That was one of the things I changed this year. Perhaps I'll back to that because this year didn't work out so well. But racing often was certainly a tool that Brett used. It gives you a very good idea of your own body and what you can do and what racing feels like, and how to pace yourself and how to respond to good things and bad things in race day. And I think that's a very good lesson and a very good situation to be in. Obviously, the fatigue that comes from racing that often is something you have to manage. Mm-hmm. And Brett managed that, obviously. That was one of the things that I tried was to race less and be fresher. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go on that going forward. I've obviously tried both. Like I say, Kona was the test for that, but that's only one test, and I'm not entirely convinced that was the reason that Kona didn't go so well. But yeah, racing back to back and getting those races, I did Ironman a few times in the past, and it's always been a really good race. It's hardly a race; it's more like an adventure day out there with that course and those conditions. And Ironman tends to be a bit of an adventure, a long, really hard training day, which is always good. If you can recover from that, then you're going to be stronger for it. And that's kind of what we did with Brett, was we treated that race as a hard training day, and it was what set me up for success in Kona the year before.
Yeah, okay, so you're definitely looking at maybe doing the same thing next year.
Yeah, potentially.
You're back in South Africa now. I guess it's all about Challenge Bahrain now?
Yeah, we just got back to South Africa. At the moment, it's all about unpacking 6 months worth of traveling, and trying to get some kind of order back in our house. But yeah, that's the plan. Jody and myself will both be doing Challenge Bahrain. Looking forward to it. It should be an interesting race. It's a very strong field, and it's a very deep field. But it's also an awkward time of the year for a lot of people to be in shape. But it looks like it's a good course, and it's going to be a good race. I think it's great for the sport. That kind of money and those kind of big races spread out throughout the year makes for good racing and good exposure and good coverage for us as athletes, but also the sport as a whole. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, good luck with your preparation, and good luck on race day. I think the world will definitely be watching.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's about all the time we have here today. How can people get in touch with you, James?
I'm on Facebook, James Cunnama, and James Cunnama Professional Triathlete is my page. On Twitter, it's just James, name and last name, one word. And yeah, I've got a website, jamescunnama.net, so you can follow all my progress on there.
All right, cool. I'll put those links up in the show notes. Feel free to give some love to your sponsors.
Yeah, a big thank you to all my sponsors. Obviously, not being able to give back to them with race results this year is frustrating, but they all understand that that's how it works, and they're all very supportive. Obviously, to my main sponsors are Cervelo, who I've been with my entire career, Kia, who are a wetsuit and apparel sponsor, who are a great company, 32GR, a South African nutrition company, who have just spread into Europe. They make a big difference too. And Envy Wheels, also an excellent company to work with, and really loving using their wheels. And then all the product and support sponsors that we also have, that I also have, make a big difference. Every one of them are very important. If I try to list them all now, I'm going to miss a few, and that would be terrible. But they're all listed on the website. They all know, you can see them all there, and they make a big difference, and a big thank you to them.
All right, cool. Anything else you want to plug?
Not really at this point. We're just settling down and trying to come to terms with the end of the season and focus on Bahrain. We've got Bahrain and then straight into 70.3 South Africa in January. So it's almost like the season's begun straight away. So looking forward to a better season next year.
All right. Well, good luck with that, and thanks again for your time, James. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Well, Junkie, I hope you enjoyed that chat with James Cunnama. I'm sorry if you were expecting Jody Swallow. I know I promised that after the interview with Rachel Joyce on Monday, but we had to be a bit creative with planning. Jody wasn't available for recording until today, so I had to forward James's interview to today. But don't despair, Jody will be coming on Friday. All right, that's about everything I have for today. As usual, if you like the show, please take your time and go to iTunes and leave us a review and a rating. That will help grow the show even further. And if you have any suggestions for future guests, you can go to the website junkiepodcast.com, and you will find a guest wishlist button on the right hand side, and you can leave your top 3 featured guests there, and that will help me with any future shows. All right, as I mentioned before, Jody Swallow will be on Friday, so hope to catch you then.